There's no stranger political division in the United States than between Virginia and West Virginia. And through most reasonable interpretations, it should not exist. The eastern part of Virginia played a very important role in the American colonies, and later in America. 4 of the first 5 U.S. presidents were Virginians. Just before the Civil War, there was only one Virginia, but not an entirely unified one. Most of Virginia had flat land suitable for agriculture, while the northwestern section was much more mountainous and rugged. Obviously, most places in the world have geographical differences between their most extreme ends, but this was something more. Unlike the rest of the state, the rugged country was virtually unfit for agriculture, and as a result, virtually unfit for slaves. Also, Wheeling, the Northwest's largest city, was far closer to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, than to Richmond, the capital of Virginia. Compared to the rest of Virginia, the culture of the Northwest was distinct. In the Virginia General Assembly, delegates from the Northwest often passionately opposed bills brought up by the East, citing bias towards the East and neglect towards the Northwest. Naturally, in peaceful conditions, these things are left to be. Canada has Quebec, and the UK has a whole collection of affairs. However, when peace turns to war, allegiances must often be made. War has a funny thing of either bringing people together or breaking them apart. And for Virginia during the American Civil War, it was the latter of the two. When the Virginia General Assembly passed the bill to secede from the Union, the Northwest seceded from Virginia. As ruled by the Supreme Court, secession is illegal, and therefore every state that broke away from the Union to join the Confederate States of America had committed a crime. This is where things get very interesting. Now, the U.S. Constitution states the following: new states may be admitted by the Congress into this Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of 2 or more states, or parts of states, without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned, as well as of the Congress. When Virginia seceded from the Union, the northwestern part wanted nothing to do with it. They had no reason to be drawn into the politics of states' rights and slavery, because 1, they were fed up with Virginia's rights, and 2, they had very little slavery to begin with. In retaliation, the northwestern part of Virginia created a new government that claimed to be the true government of Virginia. Since Virginia had illegally seceded, Mr. Lincoln and his pals agreed that this new Virginian government was indeed the legitimate body representing Virginia. They sent 3 men to the House and 2 to the Senate. Then the new Virginian government used their power as leverage to create a loophole around the Constitution. If they were the true Virginia in the eyes of the federal government, then they could technically carve a new state out of Virginia. To nobody's surprise, they had no interest in the affairs of Eastern Virginia, and so they did just that. They called it Kanawha after a nearby river, and later changed it to West Virginia. Sound familiar? Virginia seceded from the United States without their permission, and then West Virginia seceded from Virginia without Virginia's permission. There is just the slightest bit of irony. Just because somebody commits a crime does not give their cousin the right to take a quarter of their belongings. This whole situation is weird. War and politics tend to assign the labels the right side and the wrong side. In the American Civil War, whether you agree with it or not, I'm pretty sure you know who were labeled the good and who were labeled the bad. That's part of the reason why West Virginia exists today. One illegal action was condemned as it was associated with the bad side, while another happened under similar circumstances but in the other direction. But it was allowed because it was associated with the good guys. Both Abe Lincoln and his cabinet were torn on whether or not to allow the new state. But because they were the good guys, it went along. Lincoln himself even admitted it. It is said the admission of West Virginia is secession, and tolerated only because it is our secession. There is still difference enough between secession against the Constitution and secession in favor of the Constitution. Perhaps rules do not apply to some. On top of everything else, they made no sufficient effort to gather the public's opinion on the matter. There was an election, but it was something out of the pages of North Korea's playbook. The results were 18,404 in favor of leaving Virginia and 781 against. The elections only took place in Union-controlled areas, and Union soldiers were also placed outside voting stations to prevent Confederate supporters from voting. Either way, most Confederate voters didn't recognize the vote as legitimate, so they didn't even vote. Even the delegates that organized the meetings to leave Virginia were mostly self-appointed. In the counties that did have a chance to vote, the lowest turnout of any county was 2%. After the Civil War was said and done, Virginia decided to settle things the American way. In court. They didn't sue to reclaim West Virginia. The idea was essentially, what's done is done. They had no hope in reclaiming the whole state by way of challenging the legitimacy of West Virginia. That is reserved for more casual discussions, like right now. In Virginia v. West Virginia of 1871, Virginia claimed that some of West Virginia's eastern counties actually belonged to Virginia. Virginia lost. They sued again in Virginia v. West Virginia of 1911, where they said West Virginia was responsible for some of the debts from before they split ways. This time, Virginia won. Ultimately, West Virginia should not exist. It's seceded from the seceders. It's like stealing from a thief. Did the thief deserve it? Maybe. Should the thief be complaining? Probably not. Are you blameless for stealing from the thief? No. Perhaps crimes do not apply to those who hold power or popular opinion. No matter what your feelings on the matter are, too much time has gone by for actions to be reversed, even with something as domestic as state lines. Now, in the 21st century, West Virginia is just as much a state as the other 49, but its origins are truly unique in the history of the United States. And until next time, thanks for watching.